Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that in American politics these days, fact is almost always stranger than fiction. Who would have thought that an American president called Donald Trump would start a war in Iran and then spread the message about the war, doing some very questionable strategic thinking, through clips officially released by the White House that include bits of holiday movies like Tropic Thunder or Deadpool and Iron Man, set all that to the Macarena at times, or maybe not, and then have pictures of smart bombs, American smart bombs, actual real ones going off, killing lots of people. This is really the stuff of kind of dystopian satire, let alone fiction. Let's just listen to a quick clip.
Wake up, Daddy Son.
Welcome home, son.
Strength and honor. Strength and honor.
What will you do without freedom?
Mavericks inbound.
You can't conceive of what I'm capable of!
Finishing this fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
I am the danger.
Time to find out.
Maximum effort.
Here it comes. Now end this! Flawless victory.
This is not satire. This is a real clip. It was released by the White House. And Ben Stiller, the actor, tweeted or X'd this morning, "Hey, White House, please remove the Tropical Thunder clip. We never gave you permission and have no interest in being a part of your propaganda machine. War is not a movie." And yet to the White House, and especially to the what is now called the Department of War, under the so-called Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who looks like an action man and sounds like an action man, war does seem to be, at least in part, a video game. What on earth have we got to? Let's speak to Dr. Nick Robinson. He's that extraordinary mixture. He's a video game scholar, yes, there is such a thing, and also Professor of Politics and International Relations at the University of Leeds. Good morning, Professor.
Morning.
That's one hell of a title, isn't it? Yeah, you cover all the bases. You're the man of the moment. I shouldn't be laughing, and this is not a reason for being glib. But I mean, when you see these clips coming out of the White House on their official website, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's I mean, on the surface of it, as you rightly pointed out, it seems horrifying and it seems unprecedented. I think the thing that's going on here is it's worth emphasising that entertainment has been used frequently actually to communicate support for war. This goes right back throughout history. If you think even back to sort of World War II, right, with Vera Lynn. Yeah. So we've had this kind of history of working alongside entertainment practitioners. The difference historically has been that they were willing participants in all of this. And I think what's really extraordinary here is you're getting from the kind of comments, pushback from people, is that their content is being taken without their approval, which is actually a really unprecedented situation.
Which comes back to the reasons for this war, because the Second World War was a war of necessity. We were defending ourselves from Nazi Germany. This war does seem to be a war of choice, and which some people disagree with, or they don't find the reasons that the White House comes up with in a slightly variegated way every half an hour convincing.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think the thing here, isn't it, as well, is that it is being presented as a sort of form of spectacle. But again, I think that what's interesting with the United States is that this isn't unprecedented as well. If we think back to the kind of early Gulf Wars, which were presented on CNN, they were often seen as the moment in which CNN really came to kind of it came to kind of public relevance, if you like, because the sort of way in which the war was presented through visuality, a festival of fireworks, as it was often described, was the moment that television and war really started to kind of overlap in kind of quite deadly fashion.
General Stormen Norman Schwarzkopf, do you remember him?
Absolutely.
And there was a particular phrase that he used, and you saw those images of people being zapped by the American military in real time. I mean, am I being too coy here? Are the critics of these kind of video clips being too coy? Because, as you say, we have used, especially America has used entertainment as a means of making its case for war for a very, very long time. And this is just the latest iteration of that in an era of, frankly, video games and techno music and all the rest of it. Hardly surprising, you could say.
Yeah, I think the thing that's probably really problematic ethically and morally is obviously what's happening is this is a direct form of communication. In the past, if you can remember things like Jamie Shea standing at the front giving press conferences for NATO with similar kind of images, so in the White House videos, that all had a sense that it was actually staged and regulated and controlled, reflexive. And I think what you're getting here is something which is literally a source of entertainment. So it's unfolding in real time. It's being presented direct to consumers. This video, one of the ones that's got a lot of conversation, has got 50 million views right on X as of this morning. So these are not these are flowing all over the place, and in a moment in which we've also got serious questions about the usage of AI, for example, and the generation of images in this conflict at the moment, it poses all kinds of extraordinary ethical and moral problems because there is no spokesperson here or whatever.
I mean, it's also remarkable that you've got these, these videos that I would argue desanitize the brutality of war. And the most brutal aspect that we know about of this war so far, which was on day one, the killing, I'm assuming as a mistake, of 170 schoolgirls in a school next to an Iranian Revolutionary Guard compound in southern Iran, has barely received any publicity or any questioning. I mean, in the last Gulf War, which had its own problems, we would have been going on and on and on about this. 170 or more girls are dead because someone made a mistake, and they have barely been held to account on this. That is extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also one of the things that's so problematic about this video, because what you've got in the thing that you took with the Call of Duty interspersed images is surgically precise striking, right? So all of the images are of weapons hitting absolutely clearly definable military targets. So it's like a tank or it's a weapon system or something, and they're absolutely not showing missing and hitting a hospital. So that's the other thing about this. It's not only that it's providing entertainment, violating people's intellectual property rights, but it's also the fact that it's showing a myth really of such precise forms of war, which is clearly not what's unfolding in reality. That's the reality of it.
Is there a bigger point here as well, especially with this president, Donald Trump, that he's someone who doesn't do nuance, he doesn't like detail, he doesn't do his homework about many things, and he likes to see the world and geopolitics as theatre in which he obviously occupies the starring role. He is making the weather. He is driving the narrative. And it's all about those moments. For him, moments of glory, moments of television, and not so interested in what he leaves behind, not so interested in the aftermath. That's troubling too, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's where actually the parallels to the video gaming thing become really complex, because video games do something very similar, right? In majority of video games, there's a clear demarcation between a friend and an enemy. The outcome of the game, as it were, is enacted through the usage of extraordinarily engaging high-tech weapons systems in the main. There's huge amounts of bombast, music, a complete absence of diplomacy, and force becomes desirable and ethically unproblematized. So in all of those sorts of ways, the parallels with the Trumpian kind of approach are really, really strong. So you can almost imagine somebody watching the video and then picking up their controller and going off and playing and reenacting almost exactly the same thing that they're seeing on their television set. And that's where the blurring becomes really, really ethically problematic.
Government is video game. War government is video game.
Yeah, and you've got this and this concern, actually. I mean, there was a comment a few years ago now by the Venezuelan authorities, which were really concerned that they were being, quote unquote, softened up by military games. So this usage of scenarios in which places are deemed to be threatening to players is also part of what's going on here. So countries and society, the Middle East has always been depicted as a kind of unstable region, which is threatening to the United States. So that's the other part of this, where the ethical and moral questions become complex, because if all the time in your entertainment you see the world in a very particular binary fashion, then you can imagine, can't you, a screen-mediated video on Twitter or X becomes very similar to a screen-mediated experience in a video game. And that's where the blurring becomes really problematic.
I mean, I can't imagine John Healey, our Defence Secretary, behaving like Pete Hegseth, the American Secretary of War, and putting out a similar video, or Keir Starmer doing the same as Trump. But things that start in America have a habit of catching on in this country. Do you think this might catch on here?
Well, the other thing to say is that gamification and gamified logics are used in slightly more nuanced fashion here, but obviously in, for example, things like military recruitment, if you're trying to successfully recruit people to join the armed forces, a lot of the videos that are made use of now by the military to recruit will use kind of gamified imagery and a particular kind of narrative conceit around that. Esports, professional esports players from the UK military, for example, are in those spaces. So there is already a lot of similarity, actually, and the blurring of the boundaries. So, yeah, I fear and suspect that there could well be trends that are similar, actually.